Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. You can check out new episodes of the show every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. If you missed an episode or want to get more information about the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com. SoupX, the Startup Expo, North America's premier startup conference, is March 6th and 7th, 2017, in sunny Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Affordably priced, SoupX is a 2-day international conference featuring workshops, panels, speeches, a $50,000 startup competition, and over 100 exhibitors. For more information, go to sup-x.org. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Robin Smith. She's the CEO and co-founder at NextPhase Foundation. Robin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. Good to speak with you. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. I think what you guys are doing with NextPhase is super important. But maybe before we kind of get into NextPhase, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with where you grew up.
Sure, yeah. I grew up I started out in a teeny tiny town in north central Arkansas called Big Flat. As a kid, I think the population was about 37.
Oh, wow.
And that probably included the dogs and horses.
Wait. Do you mean like 37 people?
Yes.
Wow. That's incredible. Okay.
Yeah. My oldest brother's graduating class was 6, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was tiny. And I loved it. I mean, I could not possibly have had a better base structure for certainly compassion and insight. However, I was part of a farm family. I was that little girl. From the time I could remember, I wanted to be an astronaut, really.
Okay.
And I was that little girl who was very interested in science and very interested in, space specifically. But I was a little girl in the 70s in the South on a farm. So that sort of, in the last 5 years has evolved into the realization that I'm not unique in that way. So that sort of is a segue into how NextPhase came to be specifically.
Okay. So, but before we kind of get into that, I'm curious, what was your fascination with space at an early age?
I honestly, I don't know. I mean, I watched movies like 2001: A Space Odyssey. Sure. And let's see, what is it? Fantastic Voyage, the one with Raquel Welch, where they, reduce themselves down in size and go into the human body to fight some disease or a brain tumor or something. And from the time I could remember, probably 4 years old, maybe 5, 6 at the very most, I can remember just thinking that was the coolest thing ever, and I wanted to be a part of that and had no clue how. None at all. I was a Trekkie, the original Star Trek.
Sure.
Was the coolest thing ever in my mind. I can't really say where it came from. I can just remember watching those shows and being really involved and really engaged and really excited about that stuff and thinking that was absolutely a million miles away from me.
Sure. No, I always find it fascinating how people kind of come into this stuff. So no, it makes some sense. So you went to university. What did you take in university?
I majored in human biology and nursing. And it took me a long time to get my degrees, or my degree specifically. Life happens, as a younger kid who really didn't have the sort of structure and direction that she needed to evolve the talents and skills that she had. I kind of caused a little trouble.
Sure.
I believe that intellectual boredom and lack of stimulation is every bit as dangerous as any other kind of, physical, like sports related. If a kid doesn't have a track, it leads to trouble, and I'm proof of that. I own the fact that I did some really dumb things as a young kid because I didn't have the sort of structure that I probably needed.
Sure. So
it took me 25 years basically to get my degree.
All right. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I think.
No. because throughout that process, I also, just because it took me that long to get that sort of documented degree, didn't preclude the fact that I, continued to pursue that interest in physics, in, quantum physics, in space, in all of those things. So, in large part, a lot of the things that I know are autodidactic as much as degree earned, and just as hard earned because I, spent the time to do it.
Sure, and I think that's important though too, right? There's a lot of people that are successful with and without a degree, and you don't necessarily need to have one to be successful, especially in kind of the startup kind of space, right? And I think that's
exactly.
super important to tell to people that, in a lot of cases, it's hard work and some luck and being the right place at the right time, or creating your own luck, as I like to call it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But that said, and I absolutely agree that you have to create your own luck, but you also, a support system,
Sure,
a
very
solid
much so.
support system is absolutely invaluable and irreplaceable. Experience has taught me that.
Sure.
Whether that comes from, whether that comes from family or whether that comes from, your tribe, what I like to call your tribe, my tribe.
Okay, elaborate on that a little more. What do you mean by your tribe? Does that mean like spouse, coworkers, both?
Both. Well, I'm not married, so,
Okay.
but like, my business partners,
Sure.
my friends, and, at this point in my life, really, my business partners are largely, my friends. The NextPhase, like for instance, the NextPhase Foundation, key staff and board of directors and all that, are brilliant at what they do. And I trust their judgment implicitly. And apparently they trust mine or they wouldn't be here, because sometimes I think they're a whole lot smarter than I am. But so that's who I refer to as my tribe. Most of them started out as friends, and we've evolved into business relationships here and there to different degrees. And the ones who are now on the NextPhase Foundation are, as a result of that.
Sure. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And you brought up something really interesting. Well, a couple of things there. Trust, I think, is huge, especially when you're building out like a team of people, or tribe, as you call it. I actually like tribe better than team, to be honest with you. I've been thinking about that recently. I was like, I don't really like the word team. I was looking for something new, like to call. And tribe, I like tribe. I like that. It's interesting.
Absolutely.
The other thing you brought up is working with people that you feel are smarter than you, right? Because I think a lot of people don't have the ego to do that. But I think it's almost a disservice to yourself and the others you're working with if you don't each bring kind of your own area of expertise, right? And that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I can't. Especially working, this is a foundation. This is a not-for-profit endeavor. And I really, that's a great thing about what all of us do, not just me, but all of us, my entire team. We're not one bit afraid to say, I'm really good at this part, but I had no idea what, that part is totally out of my wheelhouse. So tell me what I need to know in order for you to do your job well. And for me to support you. And we have that sort of communication, that sort of trust, and that sort of organization. And it blows my mind, the people that we have. And I believe that it's because we've established that sort of organization right off the bat, right out of the chute, that we have been able to elect into our larger sphere the caliber of people that we have, which blows me away. I wake up every morning and think, oh my God, I can't believe I had that conversation with that person yesterday. It's really incredible.
That's amazing.
It's really incredible. Yeah.
So what exactly is NextPhase, and why did you guys start the foundation?
NextPhase Foundation is where our goal ultimately is to be able to expand high-tech entrepreneurship and STEAM education throughout the nation. Our mode of doing that is to do tech transfer challenges. The first one, which will occur next year, is with NASA. We're taking 20 to 40 NASA tech transfer patents, and we're going to list those on our website, which is still in development right now. It should be out in mid-November. But we're going to take 20 to 40 NASA patents, list those on the website, say, guys, it doesn't matter what college you're associated with, what organization you're associated with. If you can bring us a solid enough concept for development of some commercialized version of this patent and a business plan structured around that to successfully market it and bring it to market, then we want you to compete. We want you to bring your best to the table. We're hoping to get, we've been told that we can expect to get probably 800 to 1,000 applications.
Wow.
And this is still very new, specifically in this structure, but, on average with college competitions like this and a couple of previous competitions that are still ongoing, we've been told we can expect about 800 to 1,000. And we'd like to narrow that down to about 100 and bring those before our panel and have our panel narrow that down to a tight 2025 to actually compete. And it'll be a competition that runs over 6 months, basically, with your initial admittance into the program or competition, and then check-in midway through, and then the final where NASA signs over the patent, and the competitors have an opportunity to speak with potential investors and VCs and things like that.
That's very cool. So how did you guys get NASA on board?
You know what? It's so funny that you say that. I was, prior to taking on this and deciding that this was what I wanted to do, I was a managing editor for a regional multi-platform publication called HARP. One Thursday afternoon, back in October of last year, I started following what's called the NASA Tech Transfer Program. And it's a program to facilitate commercialization of NASA patents. Okay. It's been around since NASA's inception, but not many people know about it. Well, this new tech transfer program specifically, they're setting up to better market it. And I'd started following it. I stumbled onto it in social media probably back in October or November of last year and started following it and couldn't figure out why more people weren't, engaged in this.
Sure.
Because it's an amazing program, and these are some mind-blowing patents.
Oh, sure. I can imagine.
And and that go across every industry. So I followed it for a few months, and then back in April, I pitched a story to my then publisher and said, "Listen, I want to work with NASA." And he was like, "What?" And I said, "There's this program called the Tech Transfer Challenge, or the NASA Tech Transfer Program, and I don't understand why it doesn't get better press and copy than it gets, or why it doesn't get more attention than it gets. And I want to be a part of, promoting that."
Sure.
And he said, he literally laughed and said, "Good luck with that." He said, "Give it a shot, Well, so I spent the weekend reaching out to NASA Tech Transfer representatives across the United States, including Dan Lockney, who's the national director of the program out of DC, and Terry Taylor out of Marshall Space Flight in Alabama.
Okay.
And reaching out to them just blindly on LinkedIn. And,
you found them on LinkedIn. That was going to be my next question. Yeah. I love that though.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. It's really become a great resource for me. But so I reached out to them on LinkedIn just blindly.
That's awesome. Well, that's how we met, to be fair. We met on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So. But the really cool thing about it to me was that by that Monday morning, I had responses from virtually every single base that I had reached out to, including Dan Lockney himself, saying, I'm so sorry that it took me so long to get back to you. Yeah, definitely let's set something up. Um,
I love when people apologize and it's been like a day or two.
yeah, right. I was like,
Yeah.
you're Dan Lockney of NASA. What do I?
Yeah, exactly.
There's
No,
nothing for you to apologize
that's so
for.
funny. I love that though. Like people are so humble, right? Sometimes it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the way it turned out. Within 2 weeks, I'd done probably, I think, 4 or 5 interviews with a number of them across the nation, including Terry Taylor there at Marshall Space Flight Center and Mr. Dan Lockney there as the national director of the program. And so what turned into what was a request of my publisher to do a single story turned into an entire series on the NASA tech transfer program that was really cool and really exciting. And everybody from NASA was so open and so excited about this and so engaged that it was important to me to promote that sort of enthusiasm for the program that they believe in. Very clearly, they believe in this program. But the more that I spoke with them, and the more that I thought about it, the more I thought, man, we need something like this for this area, for this region in the Southeast U.S. specifically. And then the more I thought, well, if we need it, why couldn't it be me?
Sure.
Why couldn't I do this? I've done the
why
research.
you love the space stuff from being a kid,
Yeah,
right? I get it's not all
exactly.
space technology, but it's still space related, right? So you've been
Yeah.
wanting to work with this for your whole life, basically. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was the scariest. This is the single scariest step I've ever taken in my life, without a doubt.
But those are the
brings
best,
me
right?
back to my tribe. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But that brings me back to my tribe. If I didn't have such an amazing tribe, man, this would never have happened. And that's the truth. Because they are the ones, particularly my partner, Stephen Gantz. He's the one, he balances me out when I'm the angry one. He's the one who's like, okay, Robin, just take a breath. When I'm the one who's like, I don't know what we're thinking. Why are we doing this? He's like, don't be ridiculous. You got us here. You'll get us further.
You need those types of people though, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, they're amazing. And especially, coming from the background, the environment that I did where, my family didn't understand and they still don't, short of my daughter, who is hugely supportive and she's a part of the foundation. My family is very salt of the earth. You go to work 45 hours a week, you make that check, life is safe.
Sure.
Or it's not.
I got you. Yeah.
And that's not to take away from my family. I love my family, but they don't understand. They think I'm nuts.
I think you have to be a bit nuts when you're looking to do a startup or be an entrepreneur. I think it's just part of it, and I don't mean it in a negative way because I would put myself in the same boat. But so, I think it's totally fine, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with being a little bit like, you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead and do this, and I'm just gonna figure out how to do this. Like, of course, you need to be a little bit nuts to think that you're just gonna do it, right? So I think it's great. I love it. I love the passion.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I love it. And I know we're driving Terry Taylor out of Marshall Space Flight specifically is the one who's our liaison with NASA. And I know we drive him crazy with questions and things like that, but we want, it's really important to us to represent this well as in partnership with NASA, as well as, to move this forward into a greater conversation of STEAM education. And provision of STEAM education and how we can make it better for a whole lot more kids. Geography is really secondary. I was, that little girl in the 1970s on a farm in north central Arkansas.
Sure.
But, there are kids in tenements in Chicago, New York, LA. There are kids probably in teepees in Montana who have the same sort of skill sets that, if they're not addressed, that's a shame.
Totally.
That is a shame. That is a heartbreak because I think we all have our skills and our talents, and I think I think we all need an opportunity to explore those to their fullest fruition, at least.
No, I totally agree with you. And like the thing is, I think a lot of people don't think about it, but everything we have attained as like mankind is somebody came up with like a crazy idea one day and went for it. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
like
Yeah.
it sounds so simple, but like I think we forget that a lot of the time, right? And so I think what you guys are doing is really great. And so
Well, thank you.
I'm curious then, what types of people and companies and ideas are you guys kind of looking for the program?
For the competition itself,
Yeah.
well, I mean, obviously we've got, there are actually two levels to the competition. We have a junior level competition,
Okay.
which we're piloting with a single school, which is Arkansas School for Math, Sciences, and Arts here in Arkansas.
Okay.
Because of the association of Dan Fredenberg Foundation. Dan was former head of privacy for Google X, and
wow.
he passed away in April of 2015 at the age of 33 years old,
Yeah, that's right.
in an avalanche in Nepal. His sister, Trisha Carreri, is a very good friend of mine and has been for 15 years.
Wow.
And, Dan, at the time of his passing, had gone through sort of a spiritual reawakening. I mean, he was incredibly intelligent. He was an engineer involved in tons and tons and tons of things. He was a graduate of ASMSA, which is where that sort of personal link comes in. But he had gone through, about a year before his passing, had gone through sort of a spiritual reawakening where he realized that as much good as he had done in an intellectual way to contribute, he felt like he hadn't maybe fully realized his spiritual contribution to the world. So he went, he sort of started embracing these efforts at, higher conscience of just some socially charged issues, education, water, clean water, things like that, any number of things. And it was a real loss to have lost him.
Sure.
I did not know Dan well, but I've come to know Dan in the time since then, and the world lost an amazing person. So that's the long way of going about. My apologies there.
No,
he was
it's good.
a graduate of ASMSA, and so it sort of sparked something in me to. I wanted to be able to contribute not just to entrepreneurship of adults who may have, fallen through the cracks like I did for a long, long time, but I also wanted, it's very important to me to be able to better facilitate for the future entrepreneurs of the world, to give them opportunities to explore, these genuine interests and skill sets a little better. And ASMSA was just an obvious choice, not just for geography, but for the fact that they have some brilliant students coming out of there, really inspired students. So Dan's sister Trisha and I visited with them back in late May or early June, I believe. And they were very excited about the prospect of doing anything with NASA, to the point where they actually, and this just blows my mind that they managed to do this, but they did, to the point where they actually managed to develop an entire curriculum around a 2-year curriculum within just 2 months.
Wow.
Around high-tech entrepreneurship, based on the fact that they were going to be able to compete in a junior level of this competition.
Sure.
It's just unbelievable that they were able to develop an entire curriculum out of that
Totally.
in just that brief period of time. It's unbelievable and so impressive. And then, on the adult side of things, anyone 18 and over, we want anyone from any kind of background, including college students and college teams. We want them to be able to compete. That's really, really important to us. I had, my stepdad was an engineer and didn't even know it. I can remember him building beautiful things, drawing out very detailed plans for things, anywhere from, like a shop that looked like a full-fledged home to trailers to any number of things. And he had these skills and never even graduated ninth grade.
Really? Wow.
And he's not just the only example. I've got friends that I've grown up with that, are brilliant at what they do. I've seen them build things that in their garages, literally, that would, blow your mind, but they didn't go that college route. So I think that there's a whole vast, untapped well of skill and talent that we want to be able to help access and help facilitate through these competitions. And, based on the level of judges that we have and the backgrounds that they come from and things like that, I think it's going to be a great pipeline for facilitating that skill and the industries that need them. I hope it is. I believe that we're building a good, solid structure for that. So.
Sure. No,
I hope that answers your question. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, totally. I think I think it's really good. I think it's awesome what you guys are trying to do. And I think you're right. There's a lot of people that maybe either chose not to go into something or they couldn't afford to do it or a handful of other circumstances that you're almost giving them either a first chance or even a second or third chance at this, right? And so
exactly.
I think it's super important for what you guys are doing. So for somebody that's looking to apply, what do they kind of really need to do?
Well, as I said, our website should be available next month. We're working diligently with our web designer, Travis Taylor, to get that developed. But ultimately, we're going to have an application process, which includes the 40 patents that we're going to be working with. It's going to include links to the cover sheets for those so that, any potential applicant can have an idea of what they have to work with. They choose a patent, they go to a team that they create or that we can help them create, and develop not only a proof of concept for a prototype, but also a solid business plan for marketing and further development and all of that goes into, commercializing anything. And they present that. I think right now we're still early. It's so early. I mean, literally all of this started in June, so apologies for the fluid dates and everything. But right now the goal is to start the application process in March.
Okay.
Once the website is up in November, as soon as the website's up in November, those patent cover sheets are going to be available for folks to start reviewing and things like that. And if we have an application launch date, I think of March, and that gives them plenty of time to check it out, see what's available, and then, go to the drawing board and figure out what they want to do. And then, our structure, of course, is to be able to provide to the finalists. Our structure is a goal of being able to provide airfare, lodging, collaboration space, food stipends, all that good stuff for every single team that makes it to the finals, so that they are provided the absolute best case scenario for succeeding, long-term success in not just developing this prototype, but in developing a business around it.
Sure. No, I think that's awesome and great. I'm curious, are you guys gonna film this at all or put it up online as a web series or?
We're hoping to, yeah. And we've actually tossed around that thought right now because we're still in such early building stages and trying to make the alliances that we need to support these young entrepreneurs and these kids that enter and things like that. We haven't made any decisions on that, but certainly it's something that we've discussed in brief, and I would love to be able to do that because, again, I just feel like that's one more way to get the talent that I know is there. I'm not unique and I'm not special in that respect. So I know the talent is there, even if it is untapped, and even if they don't realize it at the outset. That's just one more way to publicize that and get them out there. It would be really important to me if we were to do something like that it not be handled in that sort of reality show, dreadful way. But yes, I mean, I'd love to be able to do something like that, and it is something we're considering.
Sure. Even if like the groups that are actually building products just film it on their smartphone or something, like all the modern smartphones shoot very good video that you could easily post online to YouTube or whatever, right? And I think that'd be fascinating.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So I don't know, it just kind of came to me as I was thinking about, or as we were chatting. But I think the thing that's really cool is you're basically breaking down the borders of kind of city and state. It doesn't really matter, right? Like you said, like people can look at these patents and decide, I want to work on this thing, and I'm going to get a group of people and we're going to build something in our garage or a bunch of our garages, and it doesn't really matter if you live in a huge city or the smallest town in America, right? And you can even ship, and you can ship parts or pieces across the country and work on this stuff, right? And I think that's kind of fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Could you share any of the like potential patents that you guys are working on? Like maybe not exactly like the technical side, but is there certain kind of technologies that you could potentially share that, to get some kind of interest in potentially pursuing those patents that when you guys actually post this thing?
The interesting thing about it is that most of these all of these cover virtually combined. All of these cover virtually every industry you can imagine: communication, instrumentation, mechanics, med tech, IT, AI, sports performance. Let's see what else. Agriculture, aquaculture. I mean, and that was something that I was really kind of honestly a little surprised about. Just the extensive usability of any of these things. And, I'm not an engineer, not by any stretch of the imagination. But for me to be able to look at these patents and say, you know what, I could see this being upsized or downsized and tweaked in this way, and being able to use it for, sports compression injury,
right.
Or I can see this item being taken and sized down and used to improve clutch response in a BMW. So for me to be able to do that, I know there are going to be people who are brilliant in their own respects, in real respects in this way that will take even
No,
run
that's
with them.
awesome. So did NASA give you like the 40 patents, or did you get to pick them, or is it a little of both? Or kind of walk me through how they decided to release these.
You know what? NASA has a website that they have these on. They have this list of 1,400 patents. And I had explored these patents, cursorily when I was doing the interviews with, the NASA representative, the tech transfer representatives. I'd sort of gone through them. But then when I decided that I wanted to undertake an actual challenge in some way, I committed more directly and went through in pretty good detail. I would imagine almost all of those 1,400 patents, as crazy as that sounds.
That would have taken a while.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, it was painstaking. It was super cool. But it was painstaking. And but the painstaking part of it was narrowing it down, for me anyway, was narrowing it down. I think I've got it down right now to 45 patents. And it's just like, I'm being pressured to take a few more patents off the list. And it's just killing me. I mean, it's killing me because they're so good. They are so good. And, I can see potential for them really serving humanity, society in substantial ways.
Sure.
All of them in one
Sure.
way or another.
So,
Yeah.
is the plan to do kind of one of these big competitions a year, or do a couple a year, or walk me through kind of how that's going to work?
For the, at least to start, we're probably, our goal is probably going to be
Okay.
one a year. We want to be able to start with NASA, and we want to be able to do competitions in partnership with NASA for as long as they'll allow us to, certainly. But we also have some interest in working with the Department of Defense and DARPA and some of the other organizations that we've sort of reached out to tentatively to just figure things out and see how we might be able to collaborate and cooperate with them. But yes, annually, and we're starting with NASA, but we're expecting that that's not going to be the last
So
of
you
them.
could do maybe like one event with each of them throughout the year or something, or yeah, okay, that makes some sense.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
like I would assume that obviously they would each kind of give you different sets of patents to play with and kind of okay, yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
interesting. And there's
Yeah.
got to be some sort of crossover. I don't know. Do they even like talk to each other or kind of share patents, those different kind of organizations?
I can tell you that NASA and Department of Defense specifically, of course, for
Sure.
obvious reasons, do have, modes of communication. I'm really not sure how much overlap there is, especially as far as their patent processes go and things like that. But I can tell you that, so far each of the industries or each of the organizations that we've spoken with have panels that are unique to them. That they are very interested in sharing and very interested in, getting out there for a more public use type thing. So, I mean, this is just such a cool and exciting thing for us.
Totally.
It really is.
So I know you guys are kind of like a not-for-profit, but how are you guys planning on funding kind of the whole thing?
We are looking for impact investors. Primarily, we're looking at impact investors. People who get that people and organizations who get that the impact of this is resonant. It's not just about the bottom dollar and making a profit. It's about a resonant impact in growing talent and skill from the ground up, literally, because our goals are in sort of influencing education as well. So, and we've gotten some fantastic feedback. Again, it's very early and we've only been at this for 4 months now. But I mean, some of the people that we've spoken with, including potential investors, has been just amazing. And we're, hoping to get anybody and everybody involved that we can to make it an effective support system for, kids coming up as well as, young entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in general who have the skill and talent. They just need a platform to, but people are welcome to reach out to me at my email, which is Robin, ROBIN, at NextPhaseFoundation.org. And I'm certainly willing to exchange with anyone who's interested. Because right now, I mean, it's one of those things where we're just sort of learning as we go along, evolving as we go along. And if we see someone with a skill set that we can use, absolutely. If they're willing, interested, and able, we want to be able to utilize that. And because every component that we can add that's going to be more effective for promoting greater STEAM education, more effective STEAM education, and high-tech entrepreneurship, we want it. We want to be able to add them to the roster. So,
sure, that makes sense. And if people are interested in getting more information about you guys, where can they do that?
Right now, currently at this moment, you can go to LinkedIn and put in NextPhase Foundation. That's got our mission statement, our general vision, our website, www.nextphasefoundation.org, will be up hopefully by the third week of November. That's our goal. Or you can just email me, Robin at nextphasefoundation.org, and I'll be glad to send out, some of the things that we've gathered as far as, the project overview specifically, which, any potential competitors would be interested in that. And if you have questions about, our structure or anything like that, that email address will come in handy as well.
All right. Well, I guess I'll let you go, but thanks again for doing this, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thanks so much, Kevin. Bye-bye.
Hey, bye. Thanks for listening. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check them out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.